Arizona, homeowner's best friend.
All right, so we've painted the room, and let's say that this theoretical house we're working in was built in the 70s, and it's stained grade baseboards, stained grade jambs, stained grade doors, stained grade casing, maybe even some stained grade crown molding. And to update it, I want to colorize that. Now, there's some real tricks and tips involved in painting stained wood. Where do I start?
Yes, a lot of prep goes into painting stained wood to make sure that the paint, and a good way to test, and if you've already done it at your house, good way to test to see if the paint's going to stick is after you've done it, give it a couple days, take your fingernail and try to dab it, try to pull at it a little bit. If it starts all peeling off, well, you've got a bigger project on your hands. So to make sure that doesn't happen, first thing...
When your father or grandfather stained that wood back in the 70s, how did he do that? What was he doing?
He's probably using, it could have been a brush, but a lot of times a rag.
Okay.
That's a kind of a popular form of putting stain, of applying it onto trim. So he's probably putting it on its bare wood and then going back and forth and then putting a clear coat on top of that as a protective coat.
And the protective coat is designed to not let anything stick to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, or stain it. Yeah.
Like paint.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So we've got to get through that lacquer or varnish or whatever it is. So how do I prepare that smooth, shiny surface?
First thing we recommend is wiping it down. So you want to clean off whatever surface you're going to be starting to prep before you can paint it. So wipe it down. If it's a high traffic area, you can even use a little bit of soap water. So to make sure if it's got a lot of dirt and grease, anything like that.
Okay.
So first you're gonna wipe it down, make sure you got a clean surface. Then you've got to spend, and this is what can take a lot of time that a lot of people maybe rush through or don't spend enough time, is sanding that trim down. So
all the little creases and crevices and curlies.
The decorative molding, it's got the kind of different, areas and different ridges. And yeah, you have to spend a lot of time sanding to make sure that that protective coating is completely worn down. So the primer, before you even paint, the primer has something to grip to. Because you can prime stained wood, but if you haven't sanded it, that coating is not going to stick to it.
What grit sandpaper am I hitting it with?
It depends. You could be 80, 100, somewhere in there. Yeah, I wouldn't use any lower than 80 typically, but somewhere in there usually is what we use. And we like sanding blocks too, like the sanding sponges. We find that those are a little bit better, and they sometimes if you use some of the paper, it can really kind of dig in and almost scratch some of the wood.
And the foaming blocks are a little pliable, where they can kind of get into some of those architectural details and grooves of the molding.
Exactly, and get into some of those ridges and some of those areas that are kind of hard to get, and paper doesn't really get to very well.
And so we're starting with an 80 or 100 grit sandpaper, and the lower the number, the more abrasive the sandpaper. You get down to 20 grit, you're really leaving a scar at that point.
Yes, yeah, you're gonna leave. Could be lines. You're gonna be scratching, almost kind of scratching the wood. And if it's decorative molding, if it's door casings, door frames, doors, it can really leave a look that you don't want. That's not gonna look very good.
Rosie on the house, every Arizona homeowner's best friend.